shaken, and unfiltered. Welcome to Shaken and Unfiltered, a cocktail of conversation where two longtime girlfriends, one Gen X and one millennial, sip, swear, and spill the kind of midlife truths you only hear after 2 martinis. Slightly stirred, always served straight up. Well, we're excited to share that our next guest was so fascinating that we had to extend this beyond just one episode. So Lindsay and I are proud to share that we are dropping our very first mini-series, a 4-part interview with our guest, Ruthie Gale, author of Call Me Before You Go. Welcome back to part 2 with our ongoing series with our friend Ruthie Gale. That's a lot of information for the first chapter of your life, which is just the first chapter, right? So childhood, your experiences, transition from being part of the Amish community, then to Mennonite, and then the cult, yes, and then trying to venture out beyond that. So then you were saying that being a waitress and trying to like embark in a professional world. And so like, what were those next steps for you as you kind of like ventured out on your own?
I ended up working as a waitress for a few years, and then I actually got a call from a cousin of mine back in the Carolinas. She was in South Carolina, and she invited me. She was Mennonite. She was in a different Mennonite church. Well, actually, this one probably was not as. It was a pretty liberal Mennonite church. Nevertheless, I had completely ditched that way of life, and she invited me to come and do some work for them as a nanny. She was like, "We need a songwriter. I've heard you do music." And so this just sounded like the perfect job for me, where I was going with my life. I had said I would move to Nashville and pursue my songwriting.
And you're how old at this age?
I think I was 21, 22 maybe. And
you're
so,
back with family and stuff.
Yes. So it did sound appealing because it was like, I think we talked about that a little bit in the Amish culture, how that even when they sow their wild oats, there's such a strength.
Rumspringer.
Yeah, Rumspringer.
Rumspringer.
You were close. You were close.
Rumspringer.
Rumspringer. I love it. So there is this aspect of community that I had been longing for. And, my family kind of, they just didn't talk to me during
Cut
that
you
time.
out.
Yeah, they really did. Later I found out that my dad had told my sisters they can't talk to me. Like they didn't want my bad influence. So it was appealing, and I said yes. So I moved into South Carolina. I was a part of their traveling band. We went to prisons, and I mostly ended up just babysitting. Like it was a full-blown babysitting job. That's where I met my husband. And he would drive the bus, and we'd be out on the road. And I mean, literally 9 or 10 months of that.
And he was Mennonite as part of this church.
He was
also.
Mennonite, yes. He had just left the Mennonite church in Kentucky where he was from, so he was kind of fresh out of
so both
that culture.
had that bonding connection, right?
Yeah, and he just took an interest in me, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm on my way to Nashville. Like I cannot be bothered with a Mennonite boy who is just fresh out of the Mennonites too. Like he was not cultured at all yet.
At this point, were you like drinking alcohol? Were you?
Yeah.
Like, you're watching all the TV shows. Like
I was full on in the world, so to speak, by this point. So I don't even know what possessed me to say yes, because when I joined this group, my cousin sat me down after I got there, and she was like, "No, you're going to need to wear skirts. These are the rules of the." So they were under this umbrella of their ministry was under a larger organization, and that was their rules. And I didn't know that. I had to put a covering back on my head, and I had completely not. I mean, I had left that whole thing.
Right.
I was coming in.
Was that kind of triggering, or just kind of
I wouldn't say triggering, but it felt in some ways a little bit like I was going back, but it was such a different Mennonite culture that I was like, it's liberal. It's like you just have to wear this little thing on your head. It's really not a big deal. But there were other things then that showed up that like they didn't allow my husband and I at the time. They didn't allow us to see each other. Like we were not supposed to date. So of course we were the rebels that were like, we love each other. And so, there were many times that I thought, I'm either going to fall in love with this boy or I'm going to hate him by the end of this because we're literally like in the front of the bus. I would be sitting in the, what did they call that seat?
Oh,
in the front.
bitch.
Like,
I don't know, is
I'm
it?
saying like jump seat. That's probably not the jump seat. Is it like
doesn't
the
quite
co-pilot?
sound right. One of your listeners will probably
or
be
shotgun?
like, yeah,
Right.
they will know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I would sit up front. The rest of everybody would go to bed or whatever, and we just have these long conversations into the night. And he'd take an interest in me and where I had come from and all that. So we fell in love.
Yeah.
So
as people do when they're on a bus together.
In parallel to that, so if you weren't supposed to connect or date, then what did dating or what did meeting like a potential partner, husband, wife look like within that church?
Well, it wasn't really just the church. It was the organization.
The organization.
So because we were part of this ministry, they didn't want us to be distracted, I guess. I mean, it kind of makes sense now, but they were just they did not work with us at all. And we were so honest with them. We went to them and we were like, hey, we're having feelings for each other. Like,
You did what
it's
you're
an innocent
supposed to.
thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
And so they just cracked down and were like, you can't do that while
how
you're
do
with
they
us.
expect-
So I quit the ministry.
What,
And
did they-
I ended up quitting before my time was up.
Do they view this as kind of like a mission? Like if
Yes.
you're on this path, you're on a mission. So your mission is
Yeah.
this. It's not to be
Oh.
distracted from.
Right. It was a distraction.
Okay.
If
If
you were
okay.
going to date.
Like in the normal Mennonite culture, it was okay to date.
Yes.
Okay,
In that
because-
culture,
Right.
for
Gotcha.
sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
They were
that makes-
definitely okay with dating.
Okay.
It was just this organization. They didn't want two people that were on the same ministry together
Gotcha.
to have that conflict of interest, maybe.
Yeah.
Which I understand now. But so we got married in the Carolinas. By that point, we had moved to North Carolina, which it wasn't far. We were right on that state line. And we lived there for a while, and then we moved to Nashville, Tennessee, for me to be able to pursue my songwriting career.
So fun.
And the
Wow.
funny thing is, I was always so dead set on this path to Nashville. Like even when I lived in Colorado still, I would always just kind of use that on men. Like
This is what I'm
don't
doing.
even get attached because I'm going to Nashville. And I remember when I first said that to my to be husband to be.
Yeah.
He was like, "Well, I'm from there." And I was like, "Wait, I thought you were from Kentucky." And he's like, "Well, Nashville is like our town. I mean, we're in Kentucky, but we go to Nashville, and I work in Nashville." And I'm like, "What? Okay,
Seal
that
the
did not
deal.
work."
Serendipitous.
my little attempt at warding him off did not work. So yeah, we got married in June of 2004, I believe it was. That seems like so long ago.
Right.
Is Nashville, like, this is shocking to me. I did not know this about you, but like you're such a mix of like Dolly and Megan Maroney. Like you're like those
Thank
two
you.
put together. Yeah.
Dolly is one of my favorite people
same.
on the planet.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
That's a compliment. So we moved there, I think 3 years after we got married, and we were living in North Carolina, and then we moved to Nashville, and I didn't really pursue my songwriting. That's when I first found out about the cheating.
Oh.
And those first years, and my dad died right before we moved. So it was just such big life, such a big
trauma.
life change
Yeah.
and trauma that I was in for a long time.
Did you get to reconnect with your dad before he died?
I did.
Oh, good.
I did. I think I said in the last episode, we talked about, just how I did have a chance to talk to him about some of the things that had really been hurtful, in my childhood and growing up. And he was really sweet, and he made those things right. And I actually got to go to Mexico to be his caretaker when he was down there. So he went to this alternative medicine place down there, and they would always require that a caretaker comes and is there for the duration of the treatment. So I went down there, I think 2 or 3 times. And I was the one in the family that could do it pretty easily. I didn't have a full-time job. I didn't have kids yet, and my mom needed to stay home with my 2 siblings that were still living at home. So it worked out great. And we really bonded during that time. I would say that's when I really felt like I got close to him right before he died, which that's kind of the sad part of that story.
In the book, it sounded like you were able to have that moment of closure too, of like reconnection, reconciliation, but also like a closing piece too. So it at least from what you wrote, it didn't sound like there was anything that you were like woulda, coulda, shoulda. Like it was addressed, and it almost came to its like full chapter close in a sense, right? Did you feel that way?
Things
Or was
still felt unfinished a
did?
little
Okay,
bit, just
okay.
because I think there was still a lot left unsaid about the years that, for instance, that I was living next door. I was living in the town that they were closest to.
Yeah.
And they just completely, my family just completely disowned me during that time. Didn't check on me, nothing, you know? And so there were things that were still kind of like, they hurt a little bit. So and I think I was looking forward, though. I was on the trajectory to, in my mind, we were healing. Mm-hmm. We were healing. Yeah. And then he died. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it did feel unfinished in that way. Okay. Because there was still so much that I wanted to talk about and ask him and just be like, can we just get this all out?
Years of history. I mean, it's in different stages of your life. And so, that's a lot to go through, even just through therapy, right? I mean, that's years of therapy. Oh, right. So. And
then so much of the attention had to be on him and him getting better. And so I was just, so much of my energy was like caring for him by that point. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't the time to be like, hey, Dad, you know, there's this other thing, you know, I don't know. It was just so intense. And his cancer was so fast. Mm. He died 3 or 4 months after he was diagnosed. So it just was so aggressive. Everything was just like sped up. We were going to Mexico all the time. And it just felt like it wasn't. And I was banking on him getting better. I mean, he was a healthy guy. Otherwise, we were all banking on him getting better. So I think I just didn't think in my mind that this was it. I thought he's going to be fine and we're going to have this amazing relationship now. Like, we've bonded. We've talked about some things. Things are moving in the right direction for healing. Yeah. So, and then it ended. Definitely still some things that felt unfinished at that time. But we lived in Nashville, and there was a point in our marriage where I was like, something is wrong. Like, why do I feel like I would go to bed and just cry, you know, and I thought for a while it was because of my dad, you know, his death was affecting me. But then there just came a point where I was like, why do I feel like I'm not the priority to him?
You just have this intuition, right?
Yeah, I'm just not. It just didn't feel like he was really just all mine. Like, something just felt off. Yeah. And so I would question him, and I would be like, something is wrong. What's going on? And he wouldn't tell me. And then finally he did confess one night. We were coming home from his parents' house, and he confessed to me that there was other women.
While you were taking care of your dad?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. There were parts that it overlapped.
Did he travel for work? I mean,
and I found out he did some. Yeah. And I was always intuitively, I hated it. Yeah. And I didn't know why. I would always be like, Ruthie, get it together. Like, you need to be
yourself.
Yeah, you need to be okay with this. Like, women, I was surrounded by women who had their husbands on the road all the time, who were touring for like big name artists. And I was like, get it together. He just leaves like every 2-3 months. It's fine. But I just kept pushing it, and like, something's just
for good reason.
So then, of course, when that all came out, it was like my world completely shattered. And I just thought, I can't even trust anybody to have my back.
Another betrayal.
I can't trust anyone to have my back. My dad never did. Now my husband is like doing this, and I don't know what to believe. I don't know who to trust. But he was my only person at that time. I had no friends in Nashville yet. We had not, I mean, I might have made 1 or 2 by then. But I really just was so in a place of confusion at that time.
And isolation.
Yeah, and I was like, but I'm here to like do music, but not a bone in me could even, I couldn't even scrape myself off the floor most days. Right. And then I got pregnant with my first child. And it just went from bad to worse during that time. And this whole time, his parents lived 45 minutes away. So we did see them quite a bit, and they would come to visit. And there were just times that I would be crushed and in agony, but I would still be saving face. Yeah. I would still be like,
put a smile on.
Like, come over for dinner. And while I'm like trying to act like their son didn't just tear the rug out from underneath me, crash my world into a million pieces. But, you know, it didn't feel safe to tell his mom. You know, it just was like, this is so out of there. And also, I had tried to talk about it a few times. In that process, I talked to my mom, and I know she meant well, but she couldn't be there for me. She was like, well, just pray for him. Oh. And that was the culture coming out in her. Like, that was how she was raised. Yeah. And she would just encourage me to pray for him. And I'm like, Mom, he literally just cheated on me.
Again.
Yes. Like, I can't just pray for him. No. Are you kidding me? And she'd be like, bless him and just honor him and all this stuff. And it was growing up, it made me realize this. Growing up, there is sort of this idea that if a man steps out or if a man does anything, it's probably the woman's fault. Right. Probably. And I don't know, I mean, maybe that's not just a Mennonite thing or an Amish
I don't
thing.
think so. I
Yeah.
think that just natural, like American society right now, it defaults to the woman. Like,
Yeah.
like
I have noticed that.
either
Yeah.
you blame the woman, right? That's the other woman, right? It's her fault
Right.
for taking your man, or there's questions as far as like you not being enough, or
Right.
what were the reasons why, right? But
What did
it just feels
she
like
do
there's
wrong?
never really like a true onus on the man. It's like it's so much easier to look both ways at the women on either end, right?
Yeah, victim blaming.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and so that was kind of the response that I got from my mom and other women that were raised like that, and they were, by that point they were some of my good friends. Some of them were also from that background and or had left, and but still kind of had that mindset. Yes.
Yeah.
And that was your only outlet. Was
Yes.
those people with that mindset.
But my only saving grace is that we started going to this church, this very charismatic church that I was like, I don't know, it could be demonic, but I'm kind of feeling the love of God when I go here. And I would weep. He and I both would weep when we would walk through the doors and we would get into the auditorium with the music, the worship, and we would just find ourselves weeping.
Yeah.
And I thought, I mean, if this is really so terrible and so evil, because, growing up, that was,
Right.
oh man, those
Can't do that.
charismatics that are rolling around on the floor. And I remember there
Snake
was,
oil.
one of the first services we went to, they were literally body surfing one of the worship leaders.
That's amazing.
Worship leaders was
like a mosh
literally
pit.
body surfing, and I thought, oh my goodness, we are in trouble. And I think he and I just looked at each other on the way home and we're like, yeah, but
Kind of interesting.
it's kind of intriguing though, because we felt God, and I felt God's love in such a tangible way. And thank God for those women, because they really were able then to meet me where I was. We had been going there probably a year, I don't know, maybe not even that long, but when all this was happening, and I started to kind of open up a little bit about what I was going through, and everybody thought I was just dealing with depression, and people didn't know for a long time what I was actually dealing with. And they also just thought, oh, I mean, she lost her dad. And I think I actually kind of used that because it was the obvious thing.
Right.
the easy
And there's no
outlet.
shame with that, right?
Right,
It's
there's no
grief.
shame.
It's shame-free guilt, because you're not having to then divulge things that are so personal, hurtful, and then put you in a very vulnerable position, right?
If you can just say it was the death of a family member, there is no shame. And it's not the shame of my husband cheated on me.
People can understand
And
it.
multiple times he's been cheating on me. And what kind of woman does that make me?
Right.
So there's not that with the death. So I think subconsciously I just for a long time I used that. It's just so hard on me with my dad. Well, it was actually my husband too that was causing a lot of the pain that was unnecessary during that time. I mean, it was adding insult to injury. So I finally confided in some of these women from that church, and they would pray over me, and they would just be like, Ruthie, this doesn't mean anything about your worth. You are worthy, you are loved.
So you
and they
felt
would
seen.
just pour into me. And there was this small group within the church that was just this gaggle of stay-at-home moms. And by this point, I had my baby, and they would bring me groceries, and they would bring me a meal, and they would just sit with me and just pray for me, pray over me, pray over my family, my home. And especially some of the ones that knew what I was dealing with, they would just speak over our marriage. And, it was exactly what I needed at that time, because it gave me it was tangible, this love. And I think I mentioned that in the book. They were part of my healing process to let people really see me and see the depression that I was in, and see the pain. That was the beginning. And then I think I just got more and more courage as we went along, and eventually had the courage to really say the thing. And he also started talking about it and owning up to it. And that is probably the reason I stayed with him, because I did see a true, genuine desire to do better. And he was willing to do whatever it takes. I'll go to counseling. And he did go to whatever I wanted him to do. He did. And he was really, at that time, very much trying to repair. So I think that's why
So you see effort, and you feel like, okay,
we
this is
did
a
make it
turning
as long as
point.
we did.
Yeah.
I think that was the big thing that kept me, in it.
How many kids did you guys have together?
We had 3.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah, it just ended up being a very healing experience in Nashville. And then we moved to Colorado and continued that. And it was life in Colorado was amazing for the first year or so, it was a brand new beginning. And then the thoughts crept back in, and I became very anxious again in our relationship. And there was also a few other things that happened in our marriage. I had just had my second child, I think, when I met a man that he just was telling me all the things that I would love to hear from my husband. And my husband was too busy for me. He was always on his phone. He was always doing things and going, places. And I always felt like I was just one of, in his life. And so it was the perfect storm. I kind of fell for this guy. And I was honest with my husband at that time because I thought, that was one of the things that hurt me so deeply was the things he had put into meeting up with another woman, the effort and time that it had been stolen from me, right? Like that I felt stolen from. But one of the biggest things is just the idea that he had kept all of that from me. Like I wasn't a part of that. He had this whole other thing going on that I was not a part of, seeking out where he's going to be and what city, and then like communicating back and forth with this person. And so I just, in my mind, I thought, okay, I can get through this. We can make it through this because I'll just be honest with him from the start. So as soon as I had feelings for this man, I told him. I was like, in our marriage, I did. I remember having that conversation with him, like, you're losing me. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. You're losing me. And he was so frustrated, of course. I mean, he's just like, I'm doing everything. And
was he shocked that you shared this with him? I mean,
he was shocked when he found some text messages that I had sent back and forth with this man. Because I don't think he knew the extent of how deep in I was. I was in deep by this point.
Emotionally?
Yes. I mean, this was just like, oh my goodness, this man is telling me everything I want to hear, and I feel ugly and fat. I've just had my second kid. Like, I mean, for real. So he was shocked. And I was like, I'm so sorry, and so we tried to talk through that. And I still thought, you know what, we've made it this far. We are like best of friends. We have made it through his infidelity. Like we're going to get through this.
We've got 2 kids.
I just need to be honest. I just need to be really honest with him. With my emotions, I need to be honest at all times. And there were so many times it just about killed me. Like legitimately, I was in such a bad place because I was just like, I don't want to leave this, what we've built together, but I love this man. Like I'm falling for this man. And so, it just got to a point where I thought, okay, I think we're good. I think we're okay. I think we're going to make it. But my heart never recovered. It never recovered.
Did it ever recover from the beginning? Like from
No. Looking back, and this is where I'm not going to put the blame on him because this is where I had to wake up and recognize my own patterns, right? Like my own story was playing out. And that is, I can't trust any man to have my back. I can't even trust my husband to have my back. Well, when you think like that, that is what is going to be, you are going to experience that, right? We know, so I know that played a part in my fears. And so there were times that maybe he wasn't actually doing anything, but it has so violated my trust by that point. And because I already had such a story of betrayal and leaving and abandonment, even from my dad, it was just there was no way he could have even really, I mean, I've thought about it since then. I'm like, there's not really any way he could have actually completely dispelled those fears.
What's done is
because
done.
I think we tried. I really do. I think we both tried so hard to get over those things. But at the end of the day, I just felt like I was not ever chosen by him. I really didn't. I never felt chosen by him. I never felt like I was the only one. And so that was the work that I needed to do.
And all of that fed into your depression, right? And then also having the young babies and probably like postpartum. Yeah. I mean, I can imagine that was probably a big storm of sadness and feelings and like not knowing what's next, right? Like
and it just all culminated into this. By the time I had my third child, I referred to this a little bit in the last episode. I found myself outside my house and completely losing my mind. My baby was literally, oh man, it's gonna make me cry. My baby was probably a few weeks old. And I don't know if you can really know this until you've experienced anything like a psychotic episode, but it truly felt like my brain had like snapped. And I just thought, I can't do this anymore. And I was yelling at him. He was trying to help me, and I was just yelling, like, get away from me. Because I just didn't know what was going on. I was like, why am I feeling so sad, so angry, so trapped in this life? And yet, you know, he was being good to me at that time. He was being good to me, and he was good to me most of the years. But yeah, it did play into the idea, the mindset that I already had, which was just that I will be abandoned in the end. Like, nobody's going to be there for me, really.
A hopelessness.
And yes,
right.
and so that played into a lot of the hopelessness. That's when I went finally to see a doctor, was when I had that. I call it a psychotic episode. I was never diagnosed with anything, but it was the closest thing that I could ever think of. It was a breaking point all the way. And that's when I was like rock bottom. Yeah. I'm either going to live or I'm going to die.
Right.
Like, I can't be the mother of 3 children and do this. Right. I can't feel like this for the next, 30 years of my life.
Right.
35, whatever it was at that time. I think I was maybe in my early 30s when I had my second child. So that kind of was the driving factor for me then to the next few years were like, I'm going to get better.
Yeah.
And I thought I was getting better. That's the thing. I thought I was getting better. And that's what I want to really highlight with people that struggle with depression, is that they can seem like they're doing really well. Everything's going good, but it can be this high, and that's what you see, right? And then you don't see the low that happens after that. And so it would always be like after a trip, if I went on a trip with my husband, when we'd come home, that was always when it would be like so bad. Just the low that nobody would see, and everybody would see the pictures that we posted, and it was amazing. And yes, it was. It was an amazing trip. It was an amazing time. But what they didn't see is me laying on the couch sobbing my eyes out, for a day after I come home and just not even be able to do anything.
It feels like that's such a common dynamic, right, for people that are in that place. And a lot of people that we know, even just through entertainment, actors, whatnot, that have this presence of being such givers, and they're like so full of light and humor. Like, you look at Robin Williams, right? Yes. And you look at Anthony Bourdain and people like that who are just so dynamic and we're able to connect with people on so many levels. And you're just like, that would be the last person I think that would be struggling. And that for me was my sister. My sister was funny, entertaining. Like, she was taking care of everyone else. She was the best of friend of like whoever crossed her path. She was like all in on them. And everyone was shocked after she died and we were at her funeral. Like, people were like, I would have never thought it was her. I never thought it was your sister. Like, and also what made it hard for us too, to your point, Ruthie, was that she was living in Norway when everything kind of spiraled down for her. She'd been living there for many years. And so when we would see her on FaceTime, you can put on the face, right?
The mask.
The mask. And we didn't see the dark side of it, which you exactly described, being on the couch, not able to get off the couch, and just like, in complete despair. So that sort of come out and become more evident, towards the last months of her life. But up to that point, I mean, she was just this light, and everyone like gravitated to her because she was the one that took care of everyone else, right? And usually, I think that's a common dynamic for people that are struggling.
You have to watch the deep feelers, because if they are, if they have this capacity to love life, they also have a capacity to feel that pain
1,000%
on such a deep level.
Yes.
That the average person who is just kind of like, maybe not as deep of a feeler, like maybe, just kind of can be a little bit more buoyant through life. Like my mom is like that, and I love that. But she doesn't really get the depth.
Yeah.
I think she does more now, just watching me go through what I did. But you got to watch the deep feelers, because if they are expressing themselves in this like very big way,
very wholehearted.
Yes, very wholehearted. Just watch for their dips, their lows, when you don't hear anything.
Yep.
And I did get to a point where I had a few good friends, and I would tell them, check on me after a trip, check on me when I've just had some major event. My family's been here. It's been a holiday, and it's been super fun.
Yeah. But it's amazing that you had that awareness to say, please check on me. Because I think that some people don't see maybe the pattern or the cycle, and they don't even know what to like anticipate coming up. It's a flow into like one moment to kind of the next, of the high and the lows, right? So it's amazing that you were already conscious of that cycle and can kind of anticipate what was to come, right?
I did eventually become that aware, but up until the psychotic episode outside my house, I don't think I was. That's why I say that was like the
Breaking point.
yes, and it was a good one because it really made me realize that this is for real. This is like my children depend on this for me to get my healing to be better. So I tried everything I could think of to just keep myself more in check. And especially I had one friend that we confided in each other, and she had struggled with some of the same things. And so we just kept each other accountable, which is where the book, that's what the book is all about. It's about that friendship and like walking with people when, like really walking in the trenches with them. And that's what saved me ultimately.
So how did it end then with your ex and now kind of going into current state? Like, where are you at?
This is the exciting part.
All right.
And I could not have said that in the beginning, because our divorce was really, really painful. Our separation was extremely painful. I did not expect it. I thought we were still going to work it out somehow, even though we were like fighting all the time.
Did you ask for it? Or
there was no trust in the relationship anymore.
Right. Did he ask for the divorce or did you?
He did.
He did, okay.
And he had asked for space. So I think he was trying to let me down slowly or softly. And I knew he was out. By that point, I was just a complete mess because I thought, I've done all this. I've brought myself back from the brink of like going with this other person. Like I pulled myself back in from that. I put my whole heart back into the marriage, making it work. And then he just goes, actually, I think I just need space. Actually, I really need space. Actually, I really need to move out, that kind of space.
A lot of space.
And the whole thing was really hurtful because he wasn't honest with me about some of the things during that time, like another woman that he was pursuing. And I knew he was into her. And I knew that, that was the driving force behind him leaving. And next thing you know, a few months later, she's popping up everywhere and our friends are seeing them together. And so that was excruciating. I mean, talk about just a wound being ripped wide open, because there's my abandonment wound. There's my wound of like men leaving me
betrayal,
vulnerable, when I'm the most vulnerable, So I had these 3 kids that were just completely falling apart. I was falling apart. They were so dysregulated. They didn't understand. And, yes, there was dysfunction before he left, but I mean, honestly, it still was so terrifying for them. It was so devastating. And so, I found myself having to parent them while I was parenting myself. And it was the hardest thing I've ever gone through. Even my dad's death, I would say this was harder in some ways because I had to be the parent.
And your kids were how old during this period? Like when everything kind of broke loose?
They would have been, it was like 3 years ago. Okay. Actually, almost exactly 3 years ago when we separated. It was in April. He moved into the basement first, but it just felt like that was the beginning of the end. So, April 3 years ago. So my oldest was, I think, 15. So it was,
and that's a
hard age,
right? So you had teenager, you had like high school, middle school, and then elementary school, right?
Yes, yeah. Well, the middle child, he was also in elementary, so I had 2 in elementary and then 1 in middle. But I think at that
vastly
time.
Different needs and levels to understand what's happening and what you share, right, at those different ages too about what's happening, right?
Yes, but that began my real journey into back to myself, like my real self, and I just thought, again, it's do or die. I mean, I didn't come this far to play. Like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Around that time, I read the book, The Power of Awareness, I mentioned last time, but I also read some other books. One of them, Dr. Joe Dispenza, wrote a book, what is it called? Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And it was life-changing for me. Those 2 books were life-changing because it put the power right back where it always has been, and that's me. I'm the one that has to change. Nobody is coming to save me at this point. Right. Even my husband, he's over there with another woman, laying with another woman, literally across the field from me. Nobody is coming to save me. Like, at that point, it was like, okay, it's me. And it's me for these kids. So the first part of my journey in that was just about staying here for the kids.
Yeah.
Now, this is the exciting part, is that I get to stay here for me because I get to live the life I always wanted to. I get to live a fulfilling, beautiful, amazing life. I get to see different aspects of the world I've never seen before. I get to date in my 40s.
So
like,
what
how
is some
fun
of that
is
for you? So what are those elements that are like bringing that joy back, or joy that you hadn't experienced before? The things you're like, wow, I can't believe I get to enjoy this. So like, what are some of those for you?
Oh, I just love being, in some ways, it's like I got my teenage years back, but better, because I have the confidence now.
Right, yeah.
I can walk into a room, walk into a bar,
Right, where we met,
where we met, and just have confidence and be like, the world is my oyster, man. Like, I don't, the good thing about not being able to blame anything on your partner is you also get to just
Take the credit for the
take
good,
the credit
right?
for the good, and you get to be like, it's me.
Yeah.
It's me. I'm the light in this room. I'm the thing that lights up my own life. I am the spark plug.
Gives me goosebumps.
I know. That's just, it's so amazing on so many levels. Also, too, your kids see that.
They do.
They see their mom growing and being happy and experiencing joy, and they benefit from that, right?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And they've told me, especially our oldest, she has told me, and we've cried together, trust me, so many times we've cried. And in the process of her dad and I separating, there was just so many hard things that I couldn't hide from her. I can kind of hide a little bit from the younger ones. I could for a certain time, but her, no. So she saw everything, and she saw the kind of like dynamic that was happening, and so she's told me since, she's like, Mom, I'm so proud of you. Like, she'll write me these notes and saying how proud she is of me, of the work I've done.
I know.
And you guys, I never, ever, it would have been enough. It would have been enough for me just to be able to enjoy my life again. Like, truly have joy in my life. But for my kids to say things like that, and knowing that they've seen it all, they've seen me flat on the floor.
Right.
Well, what's beautiful about that is not only that she sees your authentic self, and was able to share how she feels about you and is so proud, but also because you have gone through what you've gone through and you've been vulnerable and open and talked to her honestly about things. This now gives her permission to be honest as an adult with herself and with you.
That's right.
When she comes upon challenges in her own life, right? And then you've taught her about being open, owning your feelings. It's okay to not be okay, right? And so you've given her the gift in return of being able to not be okay, which I think is a tremendous gift and power we can give to our kids, is allow them to have times in their life where it's okay to not be okay. And guess what? Things will change and I'll move on from this. I'm here. You can be messy with me, right? It's okay, right?
And you'll be stronger because of it.
Yes,
right?
absolutely. And even with friends too, right? There's friends that can see you be at your worst, and it, from my own experience too, it feels like it almost gives them the permission to not be okay with me too. Like, I don't have to keep this front. I don't have to like keep a lot of this, hidden or shoved down. I can actually be seen, right? And that's tremendous. So amazing. Applause to you. Like, fantastic. Like, I can't express enough how wonderful that is to hear. Like, a full circle for you. And now you're empowering your kids to be their best.
Yeah, thank you.
I gotta know, are you dating
Yes.
now? Like, where are we at?
Part of this joy.
Yeah.
I'm dabbling.
Okay. I like it.
I have gone on and off the dating apps, and I'm like, oh, I don't even need this anymore. It's just riffraff in my life,
right.
And the thing with online dating is that you have to vet, as a woman, you have to vet so hard from the get-go. Like, you don't even have a person in real life that you can kind of size up and be like, oh, this vibe is off, or that. You're just going by words on paper, and there is nothing else. And so there's just so much vetting you have to do. And
detective work, right?
I tell my girlfriends, I'm like, I'm not made for this. I don't have time for that.
No,
I would rather just meet a guy out wherever in Whole Foods, like
Organic,
I did a few weeks ago.
In the wild.
Yes, in the wild. I met a very nice man in Whole Foods a few weeks ago.
All right.
But you never know where you're going to meet somebody.
Right.
And yes, I have definitely been dating and going out a little bit. I've had mostly good experiences with that.
Yeah.
And I think, though, I will say, don't go back in the dating world if you're not ready. If you don't have confidence within yourself, you don't know who you are. Yeah. Oh, girl, don't
take
put yourself
time
through that.
to just be with you.
Love yourself.
Yes,
Love yourself.
Take time to work on you, to really appreciate yourself, appreciate you, and know who you are before you get into that pool. Like,
yes.
Yeah, because it is. it is not for the girls who are
faint of heart.
weak of heart or
Yeah.
like don't know who they are. And I think that's why a lot of girls get in trouble with
Yeah,
these kind of
right,
relationships,
right.
these situationships. I don't want a situationship. I loved being a wife. I love being married. So I won't settle for anything
Yeah.
like that. It's all or nothing with
So
me.
I'm dying to ask. So the man that came into your life years before, right, when you were married, is there a chance of that resurfacing? Have you both just fully moved on, and that's like you'll never like maybe come back to that? Because I'm just curious,
I mean,
like would
maybe.
that come back around
Maybe.
again?
I'm open to that.
TBD.
But no, we haven't
communication.
really stayed in communication.
Yeah.
There was a point where for the sake of my marriage, I
Yeah.
cut off all
Yep.
communication, and that's where I just
Yeah.
decided, and I had just put on my
Right.
marriage
Yep.
blinders again, and I just made it, and I don't regret that.
Yeah. But also you're a different
yeah,
person now too. You've
I
grown.
am.
You're not the same person that you were in that period of your life, right?
And I don't even know if I would be attracted to him at
Right,
this point.
exactly.
I think it was, like I said, it was the perfect storm because I was so depleted within myself. So I was looking for the outside validation. He was giving that to me. So it was like,
Time
of
and place.
course, I was just like, well, this guy is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My husband is too busy for me. And so I think it was a perfect storm
Yeah.
at that time. And that's why.
And the
it
validation
went
you're
the
getting
way it
right
did.
now is from yourself. It's not
Yes.
external validation coming from another man, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a whole nother episode where Ricky's going to dig deeper into some of that like tips and tricks.
The guidance, right?
Guidance
The
for what
insights
to
and just
do.
the awareness, right, of your book, which is just fascinating. So yeah, well,
Yes. So
yes.
make sure to tune into the next episode. Ruthie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you for
We're
having me.
We're
It's
so
wonderful to be
appreciative
here.
for you sharing your story here. We're also so inspired.
Yes.
Thank you so much. You're
Thanks
amazing.
for having me.
All right. Thanks for hanging out with us today at Shaken and Unfiltered. Don't forget to follow the podcast wherever you listen so you never miss an episode. We'd love for you to like, share, and drop a comment on our socials. You can find us at Shaken Unfiltered. And if you want more fun, head over to our YouTube channel for drink demos and extended podcast content. Until next time, keep it shaken and always unfiltered.
Cheers.
Cheers.
You've been listening to Shaken and Unfiltered with Jen and Lindsay. Catch every episode wherever you get your podcasts and join in the conversation on social at Shaken Unfiltered. For strong drinks and stronger opinions, we'll see you next round. Cheers.